Welcome to Slayerfest 98. I'm Ian Carlos Crawford.
And I'm Ashley K. Smalls.
Hi, Ashley.
Hi, Ian. Today we have two guests. We have writer, podcaster, and critic.
Hello, this is Swara Salih, making my debut here. Thank you all so much for having me on.
Hi,
So
Swara.
good to see you. Hi.
Hi.
And we also have writer and critic.
Yes. Hi, it's Laura Sirikul.
Hi,
Hi.
Laura.
Laura, I'm proud of you. You didn't miss your cue.
I paused for a second. I'm like, do I go now? Do I say it now?
I'm a little nervous. I was like, wait, their introductions are kind of similar. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
We're just going to run with it. We're just going to run with it.
I actually, when you did Swara's intro, I was like, wait a minute, is that for Laura or Swara? I can't remember.
Well, when she added podcaster, I'm like, okay, I'm good.
So we're here to talk episode 2 of Ms. Marvel. Laura, I'm going to get both of your opinions. Like, so far, how have you felt about the show?
I am so in love with this the show, and I'm in love with the character. I got. It felt like like Spider-Man. When he coming home, not coming home, the first one.
Homecoming, yeah.
Thank you. It felt like that. Those vibes. I got those vibes of like of him coming to school. Like like she's coming to like she comes to school. She has these powers, and like she's so cool. And the animation just reminded me of Into the Spider-Verse. Kamala is just like so cool and so laid back, and she's just like a geek. She's just like us. And like, it's kind of like one of those like us magazines, like they're just like us. And like she is, and she's a geek. She loves her family, close family, beautiful, wonderful family who's so loving, and strict. And like, I think that's relatable for me. And also having like close friends, just a close knit of friends, that, care and love her. And, she's just like your everyday Jersey girl, and I'm from New York, so it's like it's great to have that like small town city feel. So I really really enjoyed the character. Like she is just so likable, and it's nice. It's refreshing because we just came out of Moon Knight, which is like so hardened.
Right. Yeah.
So it's really nice to have a series where you see this teenage girl who's a geek, and she wanted to be a superhero, and she is. And so I really just love that story, like as a base. So I know we're going to talk further on, but I really love this as a base and for what she was introduced to for the first 2 episodes.
Yeah. Swara, how have you felt about the show so far?
Well, that was a great summary by Laura. I want to start off by saying that Iman Vellani, she is an icon. She's amazing. Yeah. Her performance is absolutely incredible. And I had the opportunity to speak with her for Nerds of Color. You can catch it on YouTube. And she's amazing. In the few minutes I spoke with her, it's just like she's wonderful. Yeah, and her like exuberance, her joy constantly shines on the show. And I would say that she really carries it throughout. I personally have been a Miss Marvel, and Laura has, as I understand as well. We've been Miss Marvel fans I've been personally for several years now, and I love Miss Marvel, Kamala Khan as a character. I'm a West Asian, Kurdish American Muslim guy, and in media I'd never had anyone to relate to until Kamala Khan. Even though we're not the exact same ethnicity, we have some key relations, and she was the first time I could really see myself represented in media. Even though I'm West Asian, she's South Asian, but still we have like a lot of cultural similarities. I can see myself in her and her family and her community. On the show itself, I like it. I think it's a good show overall, really solid base for this wonderful new character in the MCU. Again, Iman is fantastic. She's going to have an amazing future in the MCU and throughout her show and other appearances she'll have in the Marvels and hopefully in Miss Marvel season 2. I do wish, I will say, I wish the show would take a few like key inspirations from the comics, which by G. Willow Wilson, another icon, incredible. Like she co-created the character with Sana Amanat. They beautifully created this amazing character that has been hailed as the new Peter Parker of this generation. Don't get me wrong. Again, the show is good, and I have a lot of fun watching it. I just have some notes, is what I will say. But it's overall good, and I'm excited to discuss episode 2 with y'all.
Awesome.
Ashley, what did you think of this episode?
Yeah, no, it was it's actually progressing like really well. Because you know me, I always get nervous about the fact that, I mean, this one is longer than what Moon Knight was,
Yeah,
but I'm
yeah.
always still very like, Disney has been like not so great so far. I figured out a good like number to really give us a full story. So with us being now 2 episodes in, I feel like really confident in the fact that we're going to get maybe a full story progression here for Kamala. In terms of like the actual episode, like I think my first reaction would have to just say adorable, in terms of like seeing, like, what I'm loving about this show so much is that, like, yeah, it's a superhero show. We're going to see her get powers. We're going to see her doing cool things and things like that. But like, she's a teenager. And so we're seeing these like very specific teen events that we went through, or even teenagers who are watching the show are going through, in terms of her like getting her first crush, or Bruno getting jealous because he clearly has a crush on her, and you know, going to a party and things like that. And it's like just seeing like everyday life in this world that we've been watching for over a decade, from a kind of a different viewpoint, not just superhero engulfed in superhero shit, but like regular
Yeah.
girl, like doing you know, living life as well. I think is one of the reasons why I'm really enjoying it. It's sort of a breath of fresh air from what we've been seeing so far in Marvel.
Yeah. My only concern, I had the same thought as you, Ashley, where I was like, oh, we've talked about this a lot in the podcast. My only concern is I love it so much that I'm like, I don't want it to be over in, 3 episodes or
Yes.
however many
Like,
are left.
It
But it's
absolutely
not,
should have been longer.
right? Yeah. But like, it's not because I feel the story isn't going well. It's just because I'm enjoying it so much that I'm like, make this 10 episodes. I would love
yeah,
it.
I don't want an abrupt ending here, you know, and unfortunately we've had that happen
Yeah.
for more of the Marvel shows than less. I mean, I feel like I'm struggling actually here to say which one could have had should have. Yeah, actually, I'm kind of struggling there. Like,
I think I know it wasn't as popular, but I think Hawkeye is maybe the only one that
yeah,
did land the
yeah,
ending.
I would give it to
Yeah,
Hawkeye.
actually.
I think I
Yeah.
would give it to Hawkeye there. Yeah,
Yeah, because it felt like we even though like we could say like, oh well, it depends on how you view Kingpin, but like we even had Echo have her like full story of like she's out for revenge on Kingpin and she gets it. Like we
Yeah.
even the side characters, usually it's very like to be continued.
Mhm.
And for even her to get like, okay, she has like in this story she has a beginning and an end. Like definitely was like a credit to the series, like giving the characters their stories. And I feel like I'm pretty confident in this one too. It feels like the story, like it feels like we're in very confident storytelling hands, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. I think they have a clear vision of what they want to say and what they want to go forward with the character on. And Ashley, yeah, I think you had mentioned about how, or Ian, you had mentioned about like, how Hawkeye, was dealing with these side characters, and then it was, maybe dilute a little bit from the main plot, but like the Miss Marvel show, for its strength, is really keenly focused on Kamala and her supporting characters, and no needless cameos, which is very refreshing.
Yeah.
And I think they do have a clear vision because she's going to be in the Marvels.
Mhm.
So I think they kind of want to give her a good, solid story. And plus, I feel like, honestly, because, this is a big monumental like moment for South Asians and a Muslim representation, like I feel like they can't F this up. Like
Yeah.
they really should not, and they really need to make sure that the landing sticks. At least, because this is such a big moment for representation and inclusion.
And I mean, I don't know that they do, but I feel like I kind of hope they put Ms. Marvel with the Young Avengers. Like, I know she's not, that's not part of the comics. Like, she's not one of the Young Avengers, but like, I wouldn't be mad if they like fudged it a little bit and made her one of the Young Avengers. Cause like,
yeah.
So I have opinions about this.
hit me.
Okay. So Kamala in the comics, she found this amazing teenage superhero team, which are essentially the Marvel Universe's Teen Titans.
Mm.
But even more badass, in my opinion. While I love Teen Titans, I love all these teenage teams. They're great. The Champions.
He came with the hot takes.
So the Champions this was directly after in the comic Civil War II. And that was the point at which Kamala realized she needed to grow beyond Captain Marvel's influence and her guidance, because Carol at that point was going down a really bad sort of like dictatorial path, almost of like trying to prevent crime, almost like Minority Report style. And Kamala, with Miles Morales, Spider-Man, with Nova, and other young heroes like
Vision's daughter, right?
Vision's daughter, exactly. They were like, no, we are going to do something different. We are going to stand differently from the Avengers for reforming systems of oppression and power to really work for the common man. And like, they weren't like fighting against the Avengers or anything like that, but rather they were making a distinct and clear vision for themselves. And the Champions comics, they are amazing, highly recommend them. Whereas, the Young Avengers, they like are, mainly the sidekicks, as I understand it, of like the main Avengers team. And like, that's great. And I just like, for like how I know, and obviously it's an adaptation. Obviously, it's the MCU. They're going to do different things. But I will say, what I love and appreciate about Miss Marvel so much is how she does buck those systems. She does buck those trends. She does stand against the grain. And I love that about Kamala Khan's character so much. And there's absolutely plenty of room. This is just the start of her like role in the MCU. So there's plenty of room for her to go down that path, which I really hope they do.
Yeah. I will say I never read the Champions. I own the first trade, but it's one of those things where I work at a bookstore, so I own a lot of trades and books that I haven't read. But
if they're not going to bring in Miles, though, that's my two piece. It's just like, I mean,
right.
We will see if what they do with the next movie of Spider-Man. If they were to introduce Miles, then I think that would definitely work and should be the next step. Like,
yeah.
Away from, and I think your points are absolutely on the money, and I'm going to be honest with it. So because here's the thing, they've actually been calling out the fact that like with Young Avengers, we honestly would have, because Ironheart is in Champions and she's coming in, and then we have who else? Patriot, who we technically have seen, even though like we haven't seen him get his powers and things like that. The thing is, with all the messaging that you literally just hit, I am not confident that the MCU would do a good job with it, and that's just
right. We shall see.
Realities of it too. Like
I'm just gonna, and that is to say that we should be calling that out, of course, that they're not doing a good job. But after watching Falcon and Winter Soldier,
oh boy,
I would rather them go the Young Avengers route and just reiterate what they've been doing. Because if they were to actually try and tackle real topics, then I'm just just have them go pew pew. That's fine.
that is very fair, actually. Well, because like today, I was thinking about this today, and I was like, "Am I just old?" But like, I'm very charmed by both Kamala and God, what's her name? Kate Bishop. Like, I feel like both of them have like a Gen Z vibe, a like very charming Gen Z like vibe. And so I'm like, I guess the way I'm confident is like the characters, like these characters are very like, feel very like new and fresh in the realm of the MCU. So I'm like, cool, keep giving me these like hip, cool, and or like cool, nerdy, like younger teen heroes. But I swear I do see your point of like, yeah, if it's like, then it would, I mean, people are mad just at, Kamala Khan for existing. So like Marvel's not going to be like, yeah, also here's them at a, protest or some shit. Like they're not going to.
No, they're not.
No. Yeah.
But
I am excited about, like, I am happy to see two Asian actresses take the lead in Marvel, in the Marvel series. Like Haley Steinfeld, being, even though the character Kate, they didn't distinguish her being Asian, but like, just herself, like Haley Steinfeld is part Asian. And also,
wait, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Oh shit.
Yeah, she's a quarter or an eighth Filipino. An eighth or quarter Filipino.
Yeah. Huh. I think her mom's half. I think she's a quarter. I'm trying to remember, but I know she identifies as mixed Asian.
Okay.
So,
okay.
So I have two Asian princesses like in Marvel, like leading the Marvel thing, and it's so amazing to have them. And it's also like I love both of their stories, because like Ashley said, it's refreshing to see a teenage girl. It's like we finally get a coming of age film
Yeah.
for teenage girls in superhero world. Because we have like 3 different ones for Spider-Man, you know, and so it's like it's refreshing to have, and then all the other ones are adults, so I feel like it's refreshing to have a coming of age story that's not just like it's a superhero thing, but it's also a good story. It's a good just base like story, like never have it ever, but in the superhero realm. You know? Like, I really like that. And I feel like it's relatable too for a lot, and not people who would love comic books, but also love a really good story.
Right. And sometimes you want to root for something with like really good representation, and then it's like, oh, they just kind of put that in there, but they didn't do a good job. And it's nice that it's like both like really good rep and also like a really well so far told story. Because like, lots of times not to drag any queer stuff, but lots of times with queer media, it can be like very half and half, where I'm like, I want to love this, but like I just won't tweet anything bad about it because I don't want to, but it's like nice that this is like so fucking good too. And that it is very like, I mean, like we've all said, it like feels Spider-Man-y, which I can't remember I think Samir Ahmed said this in the first episode. This is almost like a modern, like you're getting that superhero story, but more modern, because Spider-Man is, still a straight white dude. And like, this is like more, because it still is very like both coming of age and like superhero origin-y, but it's like told, I don't know, it just feels different, right?
Because it's like, I feel like, with like, so I'm going to be honest with you. I think best storytelling with the MCU shows so far, as we've already kind of propped it up, has been Hawkeye. And the thing with Hawkeye is that it was really familiar, right? Like it's we're following this new superhero with Kate Bishop, but like we know Hawkeye, we know Clint, we know his family and things like that. We know his powers, we know his it's like we're following a story, but we're so familiar with so much. And then with Miss Marvel, it's like, even for those of us who read the comics, so much of the show is pretty different. So, and then it's really just the narration in terms of like, it's not, there's a bad guy coming after you. Oh no, you got to figure something out. It's just like she's going to school. Her friends are like, hey, don't forget you got to train tomorrow, when we get out of here. And then she's like, actually, I'd rather hang out with this really cute boy.
Yeah.
It's and then it's like, and then also to see her culture reflected in that, and like inviting her friends to please, but matter of fact, you can bully me if I mispronounce this. It's Eid.
Yeah, you got it.
Okay. All right. Everybody write that down. And so, but, and then seeing like, her inviting her friends, and then, seeing her with her family, butting heads with her family, disagreeing. It's like, this is very, very different. Even though we technically have seen teen superheroes at this point.
Yeah.
We've seen them already trained, equipped, ready to go, thrown into the mission. Somebody's chasing after them. And now it's just like, oh, she found this, bracelet. It's giving her powers. But at the end of the day, like I would at that age, she'd rather, damn near crash into half of Jersey City with the cute guy from school. And it's like, that's pretty different from anything that we've seen so far.
I am 39 years old and I'd still rather do that.
And I also appreciate that they added social media aspect to it with the graphics too, but also like, Zoe, like how she's like the influencer, and then Kamala is like, oh, like can I be famous? Do you think I could get a million, like jokingly, a million followers? And Bruno's like, they keep you have to keep your identity secret. But I love that it does bring that aspect to it, like of like a teenage, like the current times of like social media. Into it, like when they even show
it feels
like
very modern
memes. When Sawa just sent us a meme, and I was just like, yeah, like these, like the memes were popping up, like the ice cream and pizza in the after episode, and so I kind of liked how current it is. I mean, a lot of people are like, oh, we want things that are timeless, but you know what? Things need to be current too, because then it's more relatable for people watching it.
And honestly, that brings me into where I wish the show would do better. Yeah. So Kamala Khan's story in the comics, and like in any real core adaptation, what should be, in my opinion, is like, and I think the show is like doing this as well, at least to a certain degree, is being an anti-assimilationist story. of Kamala, as a brown Muslim American wanting to fit in with the white standard, or like what is conceived as like the best. And for her, at least initially in her comics, like those were white superheroes, especially Carol Danvers, Captain Marvel / Miss Marvel. So much so that when Kamala got her powers in those first issues of No Normal, she, her polymorphic powers as an Inhuman through the Terrigen Mist, she physically transformed into Carol Danvers' version of Miss Marvel, because that's what she thought the standard was. And coupled with that is like the racism and the Islamophobia that she and Nakia face, including from one, and I talked on this in my episode 1 recap, from one Zoe Zimmer, who says to Nakia, "Oh, no one's like forcing you to wear your hijab, are they? No one's gonna quote honor kill you for it, are they?" And it's like, I'm just concerned, like those rather like Islamophobic microaggressions, which some Muslim woman may get, acknowledging that honor killings are a very real thing in the world, but a regular American Muslim teen wearing a hijab is just living her life. And so yeah, my sheer disappointment with the show so far, because in talking about modern things, Islamophobia still is a modern thing.
Right.
It still is a very real thing, and that so many of us, like Muslims or people with Muslim background, have to deal with, or with stereotypes or Orientalism or Neo-Orientalism. And I just feel like, unfortunately, because this is on Disney Plus, they've taken virtually all of that out. And you have this one moment of like Zoe scoffing at Kamala's necklace in Arabic, but honestly that's barely anything and doesn't vocalize anything of what was like really richly written in the comics. And I mean, it sounds weird to be asking for racism, or for Disney to be dealing with racism after we saw what we had in Falcon and Winter Soldier. But no, just like a casual microaggression and misassumption of like, Kamala or Nakia and their family and their backgrounds, and like them having to deal with that and have that be relatable and have that be a real part of their lives. What I also worry about is that they will try to tackle the Islamophobia through a different angle, as we see in this episode, where, these agents are talking about, you got to search every mosque and temple. The mosques know that they're being searched by, and like, we got to just try to be respectful, but we know they probably won't be. And we're probably going to get, this is honestly what I fear. I know I shouldn't be like making bad, soothsaying predictions or anything like that, but like, what I fear is like, seeing a maybe triggering scene of like SWAT teams at a mosque. I really don't want to see that. I don't think many other Muslims do either. So, but there's still 4 episodes left in the show, so we'll see what they do. But this aspect of the show, in terms of like what they could be dealing with in terms of making Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel, really specifically modernly relatable, not just for Muslims, but for non-Muslims to empathize with that and understand our perspective of what we have to deal with. I think that could have been really powerful, but unfortunately it's just like an aspect the show has decided not to tackle so far.
Well, I can understand why they didn't make Zoe the way she was in the beginning of the comics, because like now in the comics she's like she's friends with them again.
Yeah, she's best friends. She's like amazing. We love Zoe. Yeah. No, but Laura, that's the thing. Like Zoe learns from like she learns from her mistakes and she becomes a better person, and that would have also been like really meaningful to see.
Yeah, like I still don't like Zoe in the comics because like, I still am bitter about like how she treated like them.
You're like, I don't forget that shit.
Yeah, like I was kind of like, she got saved and she was like, I changed, like let's make up, and then now she's best friends with them, and I'm kind of like, I forgive because she does learn and stuff, but at the same time, I'm like, if I watched it versus reading it, like I think it would have a different effect on me if she was mean in the beginning. And I don't know, like I just feel like it's only 6 episodes. I feel like I won't forgive her, like in a way.
And that's the thing. This should have been longer.
Yeah. I mean, this show feels like I feel like this could be a show they give more seasons to, but this definitely really feels like it could be longer. Just because I don't know about y'all, but like I have fun. Like, I mean, right, there hasn't really been like a villain. I guess at the end of this episode, we get a little bit more of like, oh look, they are like literally going
I was
after
like,
her.
that bitch who was like listing off every minority she can
I
think
know.
of. She's my villain. She's mine.
Ooh,
Oh my god, yeah, she is my villain.
and she was
Yeah, that
like,
was awful.
was she Latina? I'm sorry, I should say. I was like, ooh, fuck you.
Yes,
Oh my god,
exactly.
yes.
If we can just, no, first was the
That's where we
antagonization
get our
of,
racism in this episode.
okay. I was like, really, Disney? Was this like, like, no, it was the way first he said that they looked, oh, she could have been your sister. And I'm like, you basic bitch, you know damn well she was a brown girl. That was
Right.
Also,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I have to say, how would Zoe know when Kamala was masked up like that she was South Asian? I'm so confused because like Middle
That's
Eastern
really
people, South
specific.
Asian people, and like brown Latinx people, like we have
Yeah.
similar skin tones. So like, why would that? I don't know.
I feel
It was
like she knows.
contrived to me.
I kind of feel like she knows it's Kamala. Like
You think so?
I have a feeling
Yeah, that
that
could be
she
it.
knows, and that's why. And like they had this long time friendship that I feel like she that's why she was like being quiet about it and not answering. And then that's why they focused on her when they said mosque, and you can see her face like pained, like
That is
oh
true.
my god. And so I'm thinking, oh my god, I think she knows, and I don't think she wants to reveal it because she wants to keep her popularity. That
Yeah.
oh, I'm the best friend with the superhero. She saved me. Because if she was to say like, oh, I know who it is, it's Kamala, and then they're not best friends, they're not really
Right.
friends
Actually,
anymore.
yeah,
So I
you
feel like
bullied
that
her.
will lose that. So she was like, oh, like I'm friends with the superhero, blah blah blah, but won't reveal it because that would just lose the momentum of the popularity.
Yeah. That's a good point. I hadn't thought about that because I did notice that they like stayed on her a little bit
Yeah,
during
they
that
did.
scene. And I was like, oh, are we just like, because I was like, oh, is like she just worried because of racism? Or like, I was wondering what the angle was we were trying to feel from Zoe, the character that, we haven't really spent much time with. But okay, yeah. So the thing I like about this second episode is like, she just got her powers, but we don't like, the training montage was fun, but I also like that we didn't spend too much time. Like, I'm a hard sell on like a longer origin. And I kind of like that she seemed pretty comfortable in her powers like pretty quickly. Right?
And we get some clues about those powers specifically.
Yes,
And I
yeah.
noticed this like when so I had got in the episode 2 screener a few weeks ago, and I noticed like when they released this clip right before the episode came out of them doing the training montage, they had completely cut out the part, which is obviously still in the episode, where Bruno says to her, it's not that the bangle is giving you powers, it's activating something inside of you.
Yeah.
And that has like my theory juices going. I gotta tell y'all.
Well,
Wait.
hold on.
Well,
In
isn't she
the
inhuman though? It's
that's
like
what I was
in
about to
general,
say. I
like
was about to
so.
ask.
Yeah. So
Yeah, in
Sorry.
the comics, she is inhuman,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
I'm wondering if that might actually still be preserved here.
okay, yeah. Ashley, what were you gonna say what were you gonna say, Ashley?
So basically, literally the same thing. I was just trying to, because like she technically in the comics she has a
Right.
gene that allows her to have power. So I'm wondering if not basically the Inhuman storyline, or are you still going with the storyline of this bracelet activating, like it's not something that could be used by someone who isn't in her family, that is still gene related, because that's what it seems like. And then we also got the story at the dinner table from her father about what happened to
Yeah.
her grandmother,
It's her great grandmother, right?
great grandmother.
Wait, is that correct, Swara, Laura? Am I correct? It was a great grandmother?
Yeah, her great grandmother.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Her mother.
I
Yeah,
had-
having her
I
great
did have-
grandmother, and she called her grandmother. Yeah.
She called her
Okay.
grandmother.
I did have trouble keeping track of, because I was like, wait, is that no, that's not, it was her great, like when she was talking to her grandma, I was like, wait a minute, was it her that like I was having trouble keeping track of like the family tree? But yeah, I was wondering about that too, because we did get Black Bolt recently, right? They did like kind of validate
Indeed.
Inhumans, which I
Mhm.
thought they would just never talk about again.
So I actually, screw it. I just shared with y'all something in our group chat.
Yeah, I saw
showing
that.
some similarities with something else that we've seen in a MCU adjacent project.
Oh.
And I'm just going to go ahead and posit my theory. I believe that the bangle has Terrigen Mist in it. It's a relic left by the Kree, and that there's mist in it that's activating Kamala's powers. And I think y'all talked about in episode 1 with Preeti
We
and
did.
Samira, like, yeah, about how there was some sort of Terrigen-esque thing going on around her. So I think this is where, you know, the source of her powers will be. So I think, I honestly do think, and there was, yeah, I'm just going to say this as well. There was an interview that the directors Adil El Arbi and Bilal Fallah did with a this YouTuber. I forget exactly who it was, but basically they said that they're talking about her power set and how it's different from the comics, and they mentioned how they talked about how her powers would be changing throughout the show. And I'm just like, okay, how much are they going to visibly change? And then at one point in that interview, they actually said, you're going to see the real deal in the final episode. So I'm wondering if that means she'll become a polymorph, actually. And by the way, it was new rock stars that the directors interviewed with. I'm wondering, maybe, like, my theory is, you know, my theory and my fervent hope against hope, I'm totally willing to be wrong on this, is that the bangle will break. It will unleash Terrigen. She'll undergo Terrigenesis, and it's, you know, her powers are meant to be like a representation of her accepting her body and, like, you know, fully embracing it and her natural, more grounded abilities, which, you know, you notice, like, how her mom, like, you know, there's sort of a contrast between how her mom, you know, whenever she says cosmic, her mom tells her to stay grounded. Maybe she'll embrace being grounded with her own body, and that's represented literally by the Terrigenesis that allows her to become an actual polymorph, or at the very least, you know, some fundamental change will happen to her in the last episode. So I think we should keep an eye on that. Again, that's my theory. I may totally be wrong. I'm totally willing to be wrong, but we shall see.
Okay, I also need to ask, did all of, actually, I don't even know that I know the answer from you. Did all of you watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.?
I watched some of it.
I watched some of it.
Until they got to the Inhumans, yeah.
Ashley?
I'm pretty sure I did.
You're pretty sure. So I, like, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was very hit or miss for me, but when it was hit, it was, like, very hit. Like, very fucking good. The lows were pretty low, but, like, I thought the cast was great, and I always am, like, annoyed at the disrespect that show gets, because, like, I remember, like, and, you know, because I'm very emotional. There's, like, I can't remember, I get all the seasons mushed up because I've never done, like, a full rewatch. Whatever season, when they start bringing in more superpowered folks, they bring in the characters of Yo-Yo and Joey's gay and Hispanic, and Yo-Yo is, I think she's Mexican. They're both Hispanic, and they're speaking Spanish to each other, and they're superheroes. And I was, like, crying watching these two superheroes, like, speak Spanish to each other and then, like, go kick some ass together. Like, that was super cool. So, like, the show did some good stuff, and Ming-Na Wen is, like, fucking fantastic. And
she's the best.
She is. I gotta be shameless to mention this, I mention it every time. She came on this podcast, and she, hands down, is the best person I have ever interviewed. Like, just effortlessly charming. She was 15 minutes early. She was like, oh, well, since we're here, I'm going to interview you about doing a podcast, because I've been thinking about it. And I, like, was like, it totally cured my nerves, because I was so nervous, because, like, she's such a big celebrity. And she was like, that sounds like a lot of work. I don't think I can commit to that. Never mind. I won't do a podcast. But, like, I don't understand why the MCU, like, will never validate that show. And, like,
never say never, because if they are willing to bring back Black Bolt, everything is possible. Because I definitely thought they were going to bury Inhumans and act like that shit never happened.
Right. So I'm feeling hopeful. And Swara, I do like that tweet with the, like, comparison, because I would love to buy that. I want that to be true, because I just want, like, you know, they don't need to. You know, there's always the rumors of, like, oh, they're going to bring them back, but, like, who knows? But with, like,
again, like, Kamala, like, it's the way they reintroduce the Inhumans to the MCU.
Right. Yes. And like you just said, Ashley, truly thought they were going to bury the Inhumans, and, like, that name is not allowed to be spoken. And then we get Black Bolt back. So, like,
yeah,
it really feels like
played by Anson Mount, who is also amazing in Star Trek: Strange New Worlds.
You know, someone asked me, like, a thing I'd like to cover for the podcast that I haven't, and all the Star Trek stuff, because I was a huge Star Trek nerd as a kid. I haven't watched it because I only recently got my brother's. God, which streaming service is that even on? I can't remember now.
Paramount Plus.
I only recently got my brother's, like, login for that. He was like, "Oh, I have that. You can use it." So I'm like, ooh, I can watch all the Star Treks, but now there are so many that I'm like, oh fuck, can I? I don't know. But I have been meaning to give it a shot because I have heard good things about him. Anyway, getting back to the show we're talking about. So we get this training montage, and I another thing that I loved was seeing her and Nakia go to the mosque. Like I liked seeing, because I do understand what you were saying, Swara, about the like wanting to convert and like the norm and whatever. But like I feel like anyone with like a family with like a cultural background that isn't like quote unquote the norm can relate to like being a kid growing up wanting to just be a kid. And like you're like, I remember as a kid I was embarrassed by like just Carlos being my middle name, which is so fucking stupid, right? But I was like, oh, that's like a weird name. And like, growing up where I grew up, everyone would be like, what's that? Like that, like, what are you? Are you Mexican? And it's like, I can relate to like a kid almost feeling like they're like in between the two. You know what I mean? Like
yeah, totally.
you have your family life and like all your cultural background, and then you have like your school life, which is completely like very much removed from that. And like I'm gonna always root for that kid, right? Like I'm always like, yeah, and then make her a fucking nerd, and like I'm gonna root for her even more. So I liked seeing them go to the mosque together and all that.
I gotta tell y'all, seeing the Islamic practice of washing your hands and your face before prayer, it's called wudu. And that was like really great to see, Kamala and Nakia like arguing over like, getting whoever gets a spout and stuff while they're rushing for it. And yeah, it was just like, what I love about the show is like showing how Kamala's, her Muslim identity, her like faith in Islam, it's never questioned. It's just like a fact of life. It's like very core to her identity. And I think I'm really happy for Iman Vellani as well, because she's talked about in interviews how, she had felt disconnected from her own culture at times growing up, but like, getting into Miss Marvel and then getting booked on the show, like allowed her to really reconnect and feel like really good about that. And I think that's like the case for so many of us. I can absolutely say it's the case for me. And appreciating Islam more and just understanding like where it is like a source of like joy and comfort and faith in general. Although I have some notes on the mosque scene as well, unfortunately, or the masjid scene, as I should say, because mosque is actually the anglicized term. Masjid is, what the real Arabic and Middle Eastern and South Asian term is, or general Muslim term is. But anyway, or you could say either, honestly, it's fine. So once again, I shall say, in the comics, as I push up my nerd glasses.
I was about to say, you're pushing up your glasses.
So it's it's taken from the pages of like the first, I believe the second issue, where Kamala and Nakia are at the masjid and, they're talking with each other. Kamala has just gotten her powers and she's like saying, Nakia, you ever changed through the night before? Like just automatically. And then Sheikh Abdullah tells them like, be quiet. Like, we're saying the recitings and the prayer. And like Kamala just says, like the only thing Kamala says is like, it's hard to hear you from here, Sheikh Abdullah. And in the show, they make it so that there's moldy carpets in the women's section, that the audio is bad. In the comics they say like we can't see you. In the show they say we can't hear you. And there are all of these problems for the women's section. Now that is a true thing. I want to make it clear that is a true thing, in that obviously women's sections and women in certain Muslim societies absolutely need better rights and treatment. I don't think, just like in many heteropatriarchal societies worldwide, heteropatriarchy is the like villain here. And this, this leads to like Kamala telling Nakia, hey, you should run for mosque board. And this is the start of my issues of how they are writing Nakia in the comics. So, and then the show, I mean. So Nakia in the comics is amazing. She's a badass. She's a very liberal, outspoken political activist. She fights against gentrification, climate change, violent capitalism, white supremacy, you name it. She's a very proud and very confident in her identity, Turkish American Muslim hijabi. And it seems like in the show, at least so far, a third of the way that we're into it, there's another reason I wish the show was longer. They're making all of her stuff about internal Muslim reform, and instead of like addressing the stuff like, she actually usually addresses in the comics. Like, she's never like really been this. And maybe this will be a launching pad into that, later in the MCU or later in Miss Marvel. But it just like, because like in the comics, and again, in just general, like how I know, and many people know Miss Marvel, it's like about how she balances, like conflict within her community and like also externally with Islamophobia, with racism, with violent capitalism, with like systems of power. And like that feels very core to her and Nakia's characters. Whereas in the show, at least so far, they seem to be making most of their conflicts, except maybe with Zoe a little bit. But again, you get no racism or Islamophobia from her. So it like rings a little less true to me personally. They're making almost all their conflicts internal based with their Muslim community. And I'm just like, why does it have to be this way? And, we get a lot of Muslim joy. Like I love the Eid scene. I love like many other scenes throughout the show, but why is this now core for Kamala and Nakia's characters, especially Nakia's characters, when like I've like never known her in the comics to do that? So that feels just a little iffy to me, to be perfectly honest.
Fair. Laura, how do you feel about her character?
With Nakia, like, so I did like that for the mosque scene, like they did exactly from the comics, like the whole like, sorry, we can't hear you. We can't. It's hard to like pay attention.
Oh, is that from the comics?
That's exactly from the comics.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. But again, like there's like no other. That's the only problem they have in the women's section, that they can't see Sheikh Abdullah.
But I did like when that scene happened, I was just like, oh, that's like from the comics. Exactly. I was reading it to refresh on the comic. I was refreshing the comics too, and I was just like, oh, okay, because I wanted to see what they would have for some aspects of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, like. I will never speak over South Asians and Muslim like voices, because they know better than I do. But I agree on I like seeing the aspects of the mosque, like of them, their celebrations and their joy. But I agree with Swara, like she isn't like that in the comics. She's her oppressors were the like outsiders who are trying to hurt like the Muslim communities. And so I'm kind of like, I agree with that, where I was just like, yeah, why is it negative? Why are we showing some kind of negativity within the community? Yeah, like I kind of just wish that they kind of stuck with how she was in the comics.
Or at least balance it with some more of those aspects of the comics. Because we can have these conversations. We absolutely should have these conversations internally in the Muslim community and even have that shown. It's just that when that's the overall focus, I'm just like disappointed.
Yeah, because she's more than just like like that. She is activist, and it's so great to see her. But she's more than just like within the community. She really fights outside of it, and so. I'm kind of hoping for more regarding the character. And I think and Swara could touch this on better on the character. Nakia's like ethnicity and stuff. I thought it was interesting that they made her mixed race. Because maybe
they did to reflect Yasmin Fletcher's casting.
Yeah, because I read the comics, and it is her identity of being like I kind of was like, okay, they're trying to. I didn't know what the actress's ethnicity was outside of her. Outside, I just assumed that they casted correctly, but when they said she was mixed, I was like, oh, cool, they're gonna add that element, as long as they keep that Turkish the element, and like the characters' elements, because for me, I'm like mixed race is fine, because they are that ethnicity, like mixed Asians. If they play an Asian character, they are Asian for me,
absolutely.
Because they experience the same experiences, and no matter what, they're mixed. No matter what, if you are mixed Asian, you're Asian to me. You are part of my community. So I figured they were going to add that element because she's mixed. But I did not know she was not from the same background. But I thought that if she was, it would add an extra element to it, where it's like, okay, you're adding a mixed race element to it. But yeah, I know Swara has more thoughts regarding that.
I mean, it's like, it's even beyond like the mixed aspect of it. You know, again, Nakia was never mixed in the comics. It's just that I know, like I've heard from many people that, and again, like I feel bad saying this because Yasmin Fletcher, you know, she's a teenager. You know, this is a huge role. I don't want to like put this on her. I mainly put this on the casting directors and like Marvel themselves, who, so Yasmin Fletcher, she is like half Lebanese, half white, and I, and also not Muslim. So that's like, not to like gatekeep or anything like that, but just that I know that apparently there were like hundreds of hijabi girls who auditioned for Nakia, you know, like devout Muslim girls who love and identified with her so much, who didn't get this opportunity. Instead, it went to a non-Muslim actress, because most likely because she was on a another Disney Channel property, Andy Mack. And, you know, that's how Disney functions in so many things. That's why I would say like Zenobia Shroff, has been who plays Kamala's mom, Muniba, was in like a couple of Disney projects. You know, she was in Soul, she was in The Big Short, which was like Fox. And so, and you know, she's not Pakistani or Muslim. She's Parsi, Indian. You know, it's because of like those like, you know, corporate essentially deals, you know, that happen, and that feels very disappointing. They, you know, the representation overall in the show is really great, and it is really meaningful. You know, seeing Muslims portrayed in such a positive light, seeing South Asians and Pakistanis depicted in a positive light is like really great. It's really great overall. It's just like disappointing, like knowing they put that energy into like finding the perfect Kamala, you know, with Iman Vellani, but you know, for her core supporting cast, they just, in my opinion, I think they dropped the ball a bit. Even though, like, I will say their performances are really great, I just wish like they were a bit more accurate in the casting.
Yeah, you know, I like on top of like the comics. And I know this is steering away from the scene at the mosque, but also when they go to the party and there's a kid who gives Kamala a drink and tells her that it doesn't have alcohol in it. And it does, and
that's taken straight from the comics. Yeah,
that is a straight scene from the comics, which I remember being so pissed off about it when I read it. Because I was like, why would you? It was like, this has to be against the law somewhere. Someone get it written up. But yeah, no. And then I'm just like thinking about also like their dynamic along with Bruno's at the party scene when things start to shift in terms of like friendship as well as superhero dynamic, and like Kamala trying to figure out when and where to use her powers, and try like when they think we actually did talk a lot about what you call it,
Cameron.
Cameron.
Yeah.
Cameron, sorry.
That's okay. That's what I'm here for.
Yeah, no, I did like when she says to Bruno, and she's like, should I do something? And he's like, what? And she's like, I don't know.
He's like, Miss Mom is like, we can all see you. Like,
okay. Can I just say, Bruno is an improvement from the comics.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Like, I love Bruno. Can we talk about Bruno? I love Bruno.
Let's talk about Bruno. Bruno's actually great in the show.
I'm in love with Bruno in the show. The comics,
He's like, great. Whatever.
Oh my
God.
In
the comics, he sucks. We all hate Bruno. Many of us hate Bruno in the comics, but on the show.
We talk about that Bruno. We talk about this Bruno.
Exactly.
Yeah. Laura, give us your full Bruno hot take.
Like, this Bruno is so lovable. Like, he's right. So, like, I'm actually like really like in the comics. Like, they're not even like meant to be. They're not together at all, like ever. But like in the series, I'm kind of like, oh, I dig this. I dig his feelings for her. I'm like, I'm kind of rooting for them, and like he's just so likable. He's just the likable. He's so. He's her buddy for life, and it's like so great. In the comics, he's kind of like meh. Like, I'm just like, you could give a take with him, but man, I love Bruno from this the series. Like, he's just so likable. He's so charismatic.
he's so likable. And also another aspect, I've talked about this with friends, they've kept of him from the comics is like showcasing him, or at least implying him to be poor. He lives above the Circle Q. He might live alone or only with his like grandmother, and like Muniba constantly offers him food or like to come over, and almost acting like a second mom to him. And like that's actually really sweet and meaningful. It was my friend and editor Kate Sanchez of But Why Though, who said this in another podcast. But basically, in general, like the MCU does not do like showcasing economics well, but they're actually doing kind of a good job here. Like I think with Kamala's home life, her going out shopping with her mom, and I think here with Bruno as well, like in terms of what they're implying and showcasing that, like, he's not going to, and actually this is a fun story. So Matt Lintz actually like auditioned for Peter Parker, and in the MCU, and I think a key critique of how Peter Parker, I mean, don't get me wrong, I still love Peter Parker Spider-Man in the MCU overall, but a critique is like, they could have handled his economic situation and showcasing him being more working class better. But with Bruno, they're kind of doing it, and I'm digging it.
Yeah, I found myself, I was like, oh, I would have had such a crush on Bruno in high school. He's like kind of quiet, but like supportive and nice and also nerdy. Like he's totally like the like silly, nerdy straight boy that I would have like been crushing on as a kid, like so hard. And like, I like that a thing that like, I feel like some people, it gets left out of a lot of stories with like different cultures is like, they are pretty like they're like of outsiders, like, yes, come be family, like that happens often. And I like seeing that with Bruno. Like the mama adores him, and like when he shows up and he's like, is it too bright? And she's like, I don't understand the question. Like I love that. I thought it was like very sweet, right?
Yeah. And then he in this episode, I almost said MIT, but I'm getting confused with Peter. But he gets into Caltech, a early immersion program at Caltech. And he's trying to tell Kamala, and Kamala's like, yeah, but cute boy is with car. Please get out of my way. Points were made, several. So, I was also like, oh, I'm so sorry, Bruno. But the dating scene between them, I guess it wasn't.
Yeah, let's talk about the other cute boy.
Oh yeah, so cute. He's also going to be in Never Have I Ever, so I'm kind of excited.
Wait, really?
Yeah, he's going to be.
Wait, was he? Rich Shaw was in Never Have I Ever?
He's going to be in. He's going to be in the.
Oh, he's going to. Oh, amazing! Awesome.
For some reason, I thought that show was canceled because Netflix loves canceling most of their shows.
There's 2 more. I think there's one or 2 more seasons.
Yeah, I think it's after 4, it'll be done.
Right.
Yeah. Laura, also your hot take on him. Let's hear it.
Oh, he's just hot. Like I do. Okay, so what I do love is that I do love the subtlety of everything. Of like they talked about Sweatshop Boys, who I love because Riz Ahmed's in that group. And they talked about movies, like and it's kind of like something that if you know it, and I like that. It's not like something they have to explain to the audience. Like when they talked about Sweatshop Boys, they were like, "Oh, you like Sweatshop Boys," and it's like it's not like something they have to explain. Like, yeah, from Riz Ahmed from Rogue One and Star Wars, they didn't do that. Like they just said, "Oh, you like Sweatshop Boys? Oh, you watch this movie? Oh, Kingo Senior, my mom has a crush," and it's like if you know it, you know it. And I really appreciated that they had that camaraderie together. It's like they have this commonality of like, yeah, we're both like Pakistani American or Westernized from part of the diaspora, and
those commonalities were really sweet to see.
Commonality of being part of the diaspora, and I love that they have that for each other and with each other, and so I really and he's so cute. He is such a cutie. Like
also just loving the Kingo references. From Eternals.
I do have a question for you, Ashley, about that. Because he says like, oh yeah, my mom still has a crush on Kingo Senior. Is like Kingo's story that Kingo from before is his quote unquote father? Is that what he tells?
Yeah, that was it was a scene in Eternals.
Okay, I couldn't remember.
He would like put on a beard or change some like minor thing about his like facial feature after too many years, so it looked like this is Kingo Senior's son. This is the grandson, and that's basically how he kept the the facade going for generations.
That made me laugh so much because they're the same person. It's like, ew.
Yeah.
Like,
Exactly. Like Kingo's grandmother likes what you call it. The grandmother likes Kingo when he has a beard, and then this person over here likes him when he is the way we saw him in Eternals. That's basically what it is. They all got a crush on Kingo.
Same though, same. But I did like, and that's the kind of, I mean, sorry, I know you mentioned like you don't like, they don't need to reference Marvel stuff, but that's the kind of stuff I do like, where it's like,
Oh no, that was good.
Right? Yeah. Okay. I was wondering what you felt about that because I love that when it's like in passing, doesn't matter, isn't explained, doesn't need to be explained. They could just be talking about a real actor, but like we know from the Eternals that it's not. And like that's the kind of subtle references that I do love.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, when you keep it subtle, and they did the same thing in Moon Knight, like, in the fifth or sixth episode, when they were talking about the ancestral plane and Black Panther, comparing it to the Egyptian underworld, and just like keep it subtle. It doesn't have to be over the top as long as you're corely focused on your own story. That's what matters.
So after she's dropped off, I got to talk about this scene because I fucking loved it. When she opens the door and she shuts it and immediately all the colors like blast at full like saturation and Be My Baby plays. So I've been very emotional lately and I love that song. And I definitely teared up because she was just so happy and I'm so fucking charmed by her. And like, I love the like, it stops when her mom asks her how it was and she opens the fridge and she's like magical and then goes right back into like her like crazy like fantasy colors and like I love a silly out of place dance number. Like I don't know. I'm not even a musical theater gay, but I love it. Give like me a musical number in something that doesn't normally have them, and I'm buying it. But I was curious what everyone else thought about that scene because I fucking loved it.
It was so
really
good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Iman is just like fantastic, and again, she just exudes energy all the time, and that is Kamala Khan. So aces on that.
I also feel like it also reminds me of like I said, Into the Spider-Verse kind of vibes. It's her own fantasy world because like she's an artist, and so you see her artwork drawing up like Miles artists, and so it's actually really cool to see that aspect. Like we're in her world, and I really love that.
Also, Laura, Adil Al-Arbi and Bilal actually said Into the Spider-Verse was a inspiration for the show. So, money
shit,
there.
Really?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah. I got the vibes like watching it. I even wrote it. I was like, oh my God, Into the Spider-Verse. This is like, and it's my favorite movie. Like Into the Spider-Verse is top 5 favorite movies of all time. And so, yeah, like it's such a perfect movie. So I feel like the vibes and it's fantastic. If anyone could take from Into the Spider-Verse, it's like amazing.
Yeah, and so we gotta. I'm gonna keep us moving with the plot here because I do want to talk. 2 things happen at school the next day, which we already talked about. He gets into Caltech, which I will say I was like surprised they didn't say like Stark University, and I was glad they didn't. But I kind of thought,
thank God, that would have been too far. No, please no.
I didn't want that, but I was like, are they gonna say like into Stark's whatever program? But I was glad they didn't, and it was like an actual like university. I really liked the scene in the bathroom between these 2 best friends, and I might be being off here, but I was surprised that Marvel would even like Disney and Marvel would even let them talk about having their periods when she's like, oh, I have pads. I know your mom's weird about tampons. Like I was like,
I mean, Turning Red did it first. Let's give credit where credit is due.
Yeah,
I have not seen it, so I didn't know if that was.
You need to watch it. It's so good.
Yeah, but I'm really proud that they did mention like pads and periods exist.
Yeah.
And it's something that you think about in high school. It's like, oh, did you bring pads? Did you bring tampons? It's like it's so great because that's how it is life as a teenager. Like like I said again, like the coming of age stories for boys, they don't have to think about that. So it's so fantastic to and it's not like something like that is prolonged. It's just a simple, hey, I know how you want a tampon. I have pads because your mom's not, is weird about it. It's just so simple, and I think it needs to be normalized like that. We need to have more of like just normal. It happens. We have periods, and then deal with it.
Yeah, I had a coworker got like apologized to me for like saying that in front of me, and I was like, no, that's why? Like that's normal. That's no big deal. And I just like it just caught me off guard that I was like, yes, I love that Marvel's like the things Marvel is already letting them do, like even just making the like the whole vibe and like the Into the Spider-Verse vibes of it, like the animation stuff. I'm like being very surprised in these first 2 episodes at the things that they're doing that Marvel is like, yes, even though, like you said, that's a normal fucking thing and like that should be normalized. But I don't know. I thought it was a nice, and it did feel like 2 best friends in the bathroom together, didn't it? Like it
Yeah,
felt
totally.
very, yeah. And those are moments I love in superhero things. Like, this podcast started as a Buffy podcast, and Buffy's mostly about the friendships, and then the like superhero shit is the other stuff. And I like really crave that in my superhero stories of like they need to have at least one best friend that like we can have a nice moment between. Um, and like Ashley, you and I love the Avengers, but like I do like, Age of Ultron, which isn't one of my favorites, but I love the party scene because like I like taking a beat to let the characters just like have fun.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, I mean, in terms of like actual relationship building, Age of Ultron was one of the better
Yeah.
like movies. It did a better job of it. I feel like plot and trying to get the action together was where it really failed. But like in terms of like, hey, these are people who spend a hell of a lot of time together and have this huge, well, kind of small responsibility of having to save the world. So it might be really good if they care about each other. And I think Age of Ultron was one of the might have been really the only Avengers movie where we really got to see them be more of a family, because when Civil War came, that was the end of that. So
Yeah, it really was.
it was like Steve said, Bucky's back. Fuck you all. I never cared about anyone.
I never liked you anyway. So then we get I do like the scene of when she's, oh wait, no, we gotta talk about they talked to Preeti and Samira talked about the partition discussion. I think Preeti brought it up because she was talking about the partition discussion and how it was like she hadn't seen something like that in media before. And like watching it, I don't know about you, Ashley, but I was like, oh, this is a scene she was telling us about. And I did think it was like, I don't know. Swara, Laura, I'm curious what you two felt about that scene. Because for me, as someone who doesn't know that much about it, I thought it was like pretty well done.
Yeah, I actually learned about it because Doctor Who did an episode on it too. So
wait, what episode?
It was when
was it a new one?
It was one of the old. It's like the first season of the 13th Doctor. And they had an episode, where Yaz goes back in time to see her family because she's Pakistani Muslim too in the series. And in life too. And she, she goes back in time and during that time of the patronage, and and her family's torn apart because of it. And it really touches on that. And it's that was a really great episode that really like explained a lot about it. And then it kind of taught me like knowing more about it, and I read all about it, and then seeing this series kind of show it. It's really great that people are learning this. Because like it takes like mainstream shows like this and like Doctor Who and like this series for people to learn the history, because like I'm not gonna know it just by it's not my history. So it's great that they mention it and they have little moments like this to really show people like this was a big moment for for Pakistani and Indian people, like during in the past of the history. And so it's great to kind of learn about that. And even if it was like a moment, it was something that was really important. It's that really important in time in history. And I think like for me, whenever I see kind of like historical things like Chinese railroads and and that kind of those kind of things, it's kind of like it hits you. And so I feel like for me, I'm like this when I heard about it and like when I watched it, I was like, wow, this is so great that we get to learn a little bit of history, and people are going to probably Google it too, and they're going to learn a lot more about it. And so I think it's really, really interesting that they bring it up, and because it's such an important time in history.
Yeah. Swara, what did you think of it?
I thought the scene overall was really well done. I agree with Laura that it is so important for audiences to know of the various historical traumas inflicted by colonialism upon us. So the term MENA, Middle East and North African, a term we're actually trying to use more of is SWANA, which is Southwest Asian North African. So I am West Asian, and we add South Asian there with essay. So we'll say Swanasa. So for Swanasa peoples, colonialism and white supremacy for over 100 years has been horrific to our communities, the wounds of which we still see today. Like virtually, like look at in very recent history, the Iraq War. My family is Kurdish from Iraq originally, and while obviously Saddam Hussein did horrific, committed genocide against the Kurds, still like the way that Iraq is today, I don't think you know yeah, like thanks to the American 2003 war. And, it's like it's both history and it is very modern in many ways. And it still affects us. The intergenerational trauma is still there with us, as I'm sure it is for other like East Asian and Southeast Asian communities. Like it's, in terms of like partition specifically, it was like it led to the largest mass migration in world history, in which almost 2 million people died upon the way, and like over 15 million more were displaced, and on the basis of their religion. And again, because of a horrifically racist and Islamophobic and casteist system that the British had made. And again, the traumas of partition, someone who is South Asian could speak to it better than I can, but still it like absolutely still does deeply affect many today. And I think with like ironically, as I criticized her casting before, but no, I still have to say that Zenobia Shroff, she is doing some amazing acting work in this series. For one thing, I really love the relationship that they're portraying between her and Kamala. I think there's such a richness and depth there, and I think what Zenobia is also able to convey here is like that those wounds of partition, the intergenerational trauma what happened to their family, and how you may literally travel halfway across the world to move in a strange place to get away from it or to make a better life for your family, because we still see in India and Pakistan and Kashmir today, like the horrors of Islamophobia specifically. You look at what's happening to Muslims in India, and it is absolutely terrible. It is where it may be bordering on ethnic cleansing. This is because of what the British instituted, because of white supremacy made at first. This is still happening today. And it's important for us to be vocal against it. Sorry, I went on a bit of a tirade there. As you can tell, I have feelings about this.
Totally okay, totally understandable.
Thank you.
But okay, so I do want to talk about. I loved her. I love that they called them the Illuminantes.
Yes, let's talk about Muslim Joy instead. Like that was great. Let's just jump to talking about that scene. That scene at the Eid party, I love. I want more of this. More Illuminantes, more pious boys, more harami girls, more like just like more of this. Give all of them a spinoff. I want all of the various American Muslim spinoffs. And it was just like, even though like it was like sort of like a relatively brief scene, it's just like it was a wonderful display of how American Muslims, we are not a monolith. There's so many different like aspects of our lives and our personalities. And it was just like, that was wonderful to see. That was definitely one of my favorite scenes in the series so far.
I was going to ask you what you thought about the different groups, like the bros and the like the.
It's totally a thing. It absolutely is a thing.
The reverts.
The Converse reverts was so good and so funny, and that was absolutely Bruno in that group. That was so great.
Yeah, because I think she even says that's your like that was his, like he had to tackle that group. I think
exactly.
Yeah, I love that, and I kind of liked also like Kamala is fucking smart, which I love too, because she knew that the aunties would want to gossip and that she would get some info from them, and she fucking did. Like I love them being like. They're like, oh, I heard she had a secret family. Oh, I heard she killed a man. Although I feel like the killed a man part might be the one that was true. like not in like a murderer way, but in like a she killed someone to save her family or something like that. Like
Okay,
maybe
so
with the
it's
powers.
not we don't talk about Aisha. It's not we don't talk about Bruno. It's we don't talk about Aisha. That's what it is.
Yes.
When the
so
fact
but
is everyone talks about Aisha.
so the her gossip session is interrupted though, Ashley, by what?
Little kid decided to take a selfie on top of a really tall building.
Like, wow, he was like out the window. I was like, oh god, this child.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I was a little like, I mean, on one hand, I was like, in a 2022 world, this probably is how someone would,
Yeah.
be in danger. And then at the same time, I'm like, I know you're a kid, but really, like, like it couldn't, but yeah, he's literally dangling from a very, very tall building.
Yeah. I couldn't tell if it was a tower attached to the mosque or if it was just like a random building.
I think it was attached to the mosque.
Was it?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure. But so I kind of love that, like, so she sees that and she like, knows she has to run into action. And I like that Bruno and Nakia, like, they meet up and she's like, where's Kamala? And he's like, then she went home with her parents, like a very bad liar. But even her, like, watching her like do this and be like kind of confident in her powers, I really liked this. I was like charmed that she, she does like crisis, like what's the word? Crisis what? What's the word I'm looking for?
Crisis mode?
What was it?
Crisis mode?
Yeah, like, because she like tells the kid, like, think of something you like. What's your favorite food? Like, she's just trying to like get him to think nice so he's not panicking. And I did like Laura, what does he say his favorite food is?
Ice cream pizza. And she was like, what is that? Is it in a bowl or is it on a plate? Like, but think about it. And he was just like, no, I like to put ice cream on my pizza. And I just loved it under her breath. Oh, gross.
Yeah, I love that she like is
Laura,
like, oh, gross.
Laura, which is grosser, pineapple or as you are wrong about, or ice cream?
I'd rather have
On
ice
pizza.
cream than pineapple on pizza.
What?
No, pineapple on pizza is good.
I'd
Damn
rather
it.
put ice cream on my pizza than pineapple.
So Laura, I know I've already told you, I feel like I've already given you the confidence boost. So I want to take Laura's side, but I'm going to take your side.
Yes.
I mean, both of them are gross, but I'd rather not have
Pineapple on pizza is amazing. There has been a defamation campaign against pineapple on pizza for years. I will not have it anymore.
No, dessert should not go on pizza. So pineapple and ice cream both should not go on pizza. That's all I'll take. But yes, ice cream on pizza is that what that kid liked, and I loved all the memes that they had afterwards.
Yes, yeah, I was very charmed by that. Though, like, it was just like a quick montage of all the like memes and stuff. And again, like, I think you said at the top of the episode, Laura, it feels modern, but it doesn't need to be timeless per se. But it also feels like, say that becomes very dated, it's like, okay, it's like a 2-second whatever, so it's like fine, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I liked the thing I like about her is that she's confident. It's a lot like Kate Bishop too. Like, these are two characters that I'm really loving. Is like these like teen girls who are confident but like still kind of figuring it out, but are like, I gotta do it, and they're gonna like dive headfirst into what the problem is. And I thought it was really cool, like, watching her, because that's not something she can do in the comics at all, right? The like when she's walking on air, kind of on the like crystal powers.
Well, one could make an argument, when she embiggens, it's like similar, she embiggens her legs and like, she's able to be high up. But no, like, yeah, there are no like, her powers in the comics are literally just being a polymorph and changing and shifting her body and like embiggening her fist. And like, she has no like, these are, let's just call it what it is. These are Green Lantern-esque powers, and she doesn't have any of that in the comics. But I think like what I do like about it, again, I was one of those people who was like very much bemoaning the power change for a while, but based on like, sort of clues I told y'all about, and also just like how they're portraying it, I am actually intrigued by the powers. And while I don't, like, well, I personally don't think it lands as well in terms of like, the metaphor of what her powers are in the comics and like her changing body and stuff. I just like, the thing is, like, I think they are very intrinsically tying it, to her genetics, again, like maybe it's Terrigen Mist. And I think that, I know there's just like, something interesting going on with like there's more going on with them like as the series goes along, and we also get the visions which show us like visions of different like mysterious Daisy women. Are these Kamala's family? Well, actually we do find out who one of them is like almost immediately after she has the vision like at the end of the episode. But no, I am very intrigued with like the powers so far. I don't know, Ashley, Laura, what do y'all think?
I'm personally enjoying them in the show. I do love her powers in the comics. Just because, she has so much more fun with them, like in a sense of
Yeah.
like I don't know. Like I was almost about to say she doesn't take herself too seriously, but that's not really like accurate. I guess what I want to say is that like like she's a kid. Like I love because when I first read the comics, I was much younger myself, and so it was like this would be me with superpowers, and less so like my favorite superhero is Storm, who takes herself very seriously as she should, the queen she is. But like it's like I would not be that. I would definitely be more so a Kamala. Like I can do this because like I'm not doing anything right now. No one's in danger. I'm just gonna be I'm just gonna be 6 foot tall for the hell of it. I want to know what it's like to be Shaquille O'Neal today. So like like that's. I just love her powers in the comics, but I think for the show and visually, as well as the energy of the show and where it's going and where it's going to lead to in terms of the Marvels, I do personally think it works. But I just want to say that like I wouldn't want any transformation happenings like with the comics. Like we're gonna stick with that.
Yeah, Laura.
Yeah, I think I understood why they gave her the powers they did for Miss Marvel. Just so because Marvel has like Captain Marvel and and also the others have like this very phasmic powers. So I think they wanted to make it relatable. And to make it common, but
that's a good point. I hadn't thought about that, Laura. I hadn't that they wanted to make it look kind of a little bit like
because it's like Marvel. It's like
potentially,
and Phasma too. It's like identical. Like they have this the identical powers, and like that's how they're part of the Marvel's family,
right?
But I do hope that they do expand that power, like what Sora said, like the embiggen. I need to see that. I need to see that power because it is classic. I do like that they did kind of give it to us with the phasmic powers, with the big hand trying to reach it. Like I did like that. But I do want to see her body kind of morph and move. But I think that's also budget for graphics.
Yeah.
I might be different, but if they're trying to make it more related for Marvels, like the Marvel movies, then I understand why they did it. But I would like to see some embiggen and like some changes, like, and it doesn't have to be now. It could be like she's still learning her powers because there's so many of the superheroes that are still learning their powers as they go on. So I do hope we see some sort of embiggen that she does. But so far her powers, it makes sense to me of why they did it. For people who don't read the comics, it makes sense. For people who are watching it for the first time, it's like, oh, if she's like another entity of Miss Marvel, why doesn't she have similar Miss Marvel powers? So I kind of understood why they did it, but
at least how they started out with it because of having sort of that similar visual thing. And we have to remember that Kamala, she wants to, I think what I also appreciate in the first episode was like, she wants to emulate Carol Danvers because of her confidence. She wants to have that same sort of thing. I think they did that very well because Kamala in general is not a very confident kid. She's very nerdy and awkward and feels a bit ostracized. But I think the direction the show will go, and if I may be so bold to make a prediction, is she realizes that she doesn't have to be like Captain Marvel. She does have the visuals of those powers, but then again, maybe if that bangle breaks and she undergoes Terrigenesis, she does like actually get the polymorphic embiggening powers, or at least something similar to it. But even if that doesn't happen, I agree with y'all, and like I think that they're handling the power set change well. Honestly, overall, I think that there is something intriguing going on here that I will let the show play out and show us in the finale what happens.
So speaking of, we're here at the end. She runs away because the kid does fall. I'm like, I get like momish where I'm like, no, Kamala, it wasn't, you didn't do anything. It's okay. He just hurt his ankle. Like he's okay. But she gets like, I felt bad for her because, she gets really upset because she kind of blames herself because she gets like another one of those visions, which we bypassed earlier, but earlier she passes out at dinner and she sees this like white vision of like the figure of a woman, but we don't really see her. But this time we see the woman. She kind of falls over.
These are two different women, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh, are they? Oh, are they? Oh shit. Okay.
Yeah, they are.
Because we didn't. Was it? I thought in the.
I assumed. I don't know about the first woman, but I assumed that was her great grandmother. But it may not.
I believe it was. Yes.
And then when we fast forward to the second time, it was
Cameron's mom. Yeah.
Okay. Yes. Okay. One time I was scared I was going to mispronounce his name, but it's
played
Cameron's
by
mom.
Pakistani actress Nimra Bucha, whom we see at the very end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so she's in the back seat when Cameron comes to pick her up. When she basically say, wait, before we get to that, can we talk about how these two piss ass government agents got so much smoke for teenagers but none for adults? Like,
oh my god.
You chase Peter Parker. Mind you, we just came off the cusp of aliens trying to take over, like to snap half of us away. Like, I don't understand how y'all are trying to like pin shit on him. Maybe you should talk to him calmly since he did just help us out with that little situation.
Right.
And now you got all this smoke for a new teenager because of a fucking viral clip. Like, you knew not to roll up on Thor like this when he was walking around Earth. What is this now? I just know. I know you ever get I get very overprotective over the younger superheroes. Like, Miles Morales has the strength of 8 times of average man. And every time someone hits him, I want to crawl through the comic book and hit them with a chair. So I'm just like, why do y'all have this smoke for young adults? You know not to do this to the grown-ups. So what are we doing this to the kids for?
Right.
Anyway, that's my
because they think they can take advantage of the kids.
Yeah, they're easier to prey because they're kids, I think.
But that's why it's pissing me off so much. I'm just like, I am personally ready to just put me in there. I don't need powers. I can take them.
Is it the Demi
you, Ashley?
The Demi Lovato meme where it's like, stay away from her, get a job.
Yeah,
that's me watching. Yeah. But yeah, so Laura, I want to know, who do you think this mysterious woman is?
I think she's obviously related to the to more of the like the history, the Marvel, the Captain Marvel history. Namja means star, so I'm kind of thinking like she's related to what's the
Marvel?
Marvel, yes, thank you.
Oh.
I think it's related to the Skrulls and the why can't I remember the other group, the ones that they're part of? The
Kree.
Marvel. The Kree, yes, thank you. Like I definitely think it's part of that because that's how I think it's gonna relate to the Marvels movie. Like how we're gonna like how Kamala's gonna deal with like Namja and like it's all related to that. Because we know who Cameron is, like how he's related. But I definitely think that's a hint of the character. I also might think that it's maybe a I was reading up on it, like someone who's it has to. I think it has to be part of the Kree or the Skrulls. So that's my major thing. Like I think somehow she's part of that. So I don't know. I'm not too sure. I have to wait till the next few episodes. But I know who Cameron is, part of the lineage. But I definitely want to see more.
Right, Laura,
you
mentioned Kamran's lineage. Do you mean from the comics specifically? Because shall I go ahead and drop some more comics knowledge?
Drop it, because I do know it, but I didn't know if it's a spoiler or not.
Oh no, I mean we can fully say it. It's not a spoiler. No, we talked about the comics.
Exactly. I have that link so far, as y'all know. But no, Kamran is an Inhuman who is working. He goes on a date with Kamala at first, or similar to the show, but turns out he's actually a villain who is part of like an Inhuman group that's like sort of rogue and trying to like get power. And basically it's like a big portrayal for Kamala. And Inhumans, they have a lineage, so like Laura mentioned. So I think his mom is also potentially an Inhuman. Because I will say this, like, Kamran's role in the comics is like very minimal, but Rish Shah as Kamran, he's in all 6 episodes, or at least 5 episodes, and his role, and I actually got to speak with him as well as like other stars of the show. Like his role has been expanded more than it was in the comics, so they're doing something like I'm very intrigued to see what they do with Kamran. And like Rish Shah he seems like a excellent actor, and I'm I'm very intrigued for like, what he and his mom are up to. And I have faith that like, at least for Kamran, it won't be like a one note, like villain. Like they're going to make like the brown guy, the villain, like, as opposed to like the white love interest in Bruno or
Yeah, I
anything.
was nervous
That's
about
our love
that.
triangle, everybody. But no, I'm very intrigued. I'm very intrigued for how this may go.
Well, yeah, because the Kree created Inhumans, right?
Yes,
Okay.
exactly. Through the
So
Terrigen mists. Yeah.
yeah, so yeah, so that does, because I believe it was didn't I say last episode that what was the symbol on the
Oh yeah, you said it looked
bracelet?
Cree. Yeah,
Yeah,
which
that symbol on there. So I think the idea that the mist might, like, as Samara was saying, but I do believe that amulet is linked to the Kree, because I said that
yeah,
in the last episode,
Yeah.
and their
Yeah.
symbol is literally on the side of it when she first put it on at the party in the last episode. So is it possible that, I mean, this would be make them Inhumans, but that Cameron and his mother are Kree human hybrids, if not just
yeah, like
Created by
I
Inhumans.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And before, remember, we have another love triangle possibly coming with Aramis Knight,
yes.
as
Oh,
Red.
yeah.
Kareem's coming, so.
Yeah, Kareem is coming. I don't think, from what I understand, like he has like a less of a role. Maybe, I don't know. I guess we'll see. So like there are two love
Yeah.
triangles. If we have a love like square,
A square.
apparently. Kamala has many suitors.
And good for her.
I'm rooting for her. I'm rooting for just for her. Whoever she
Yes.
decides.
I root for whoever she decides. That's what I'm rooting for. But yeah, okay, so we're at the end here. What is your favorite scene from the episode, Laura?
Probably the dancing scene, like how she just is feeling herself,
Yeah.
and the be my baby girl, like that one, be
Mhm.
mine, because like I really love. I love everything about the graphics.
Yeah,
So
same.
whenever they have graphics like that, so like I do love that, because that scene where she's in like her own head, and she sees her parents around. How is it? She goes, it was magical, and then she lays down and texting him, because I like the animation of it. But
Mhm.
as a scene in general, I did love the mosque scene, just because it was nice to just have some sort of like culture in there, and like it's
Yeah.
nice to learn more about it. And I felt like I felt like it's, I think whenever I watch things and I see something that has like a culture base for it, I feel really excited for people who live that culture and they get to see that. So that's
Yeah.
for me was like scene that I love seeing.
Swara, what was your favorite scene?
Once again, absolutely the Eid scene,
Mhm.
showing them all these like Muslims, various kinds of Muslims having fun in the courtyard and the various different groups. And just like so lively and joyful and colorful with delicious food and like, just a fun gathering, because that's how it really is. Our communities, Swanasa and Muslim communities, we have a lot of fun. You should join some of our parties sometime. Like they are a great time. And I really do think that in episode 2, they conveyed that like really wonderfully. And yeah, just like really great for non-Muslims to see that, and Muslims as well, primarily, but like,
Yeah.
for everyone to see that, just like expand the joy, expand the love of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was my favorite scene for sure.
Ashley?
Not really a scene so much as I was happy to see Taisha, who was Amir's fiance.
Yeah.
Just to see
She's great.
yeah. So, but also just seeing a black, like them diversifying
Yeah.
Muslim Americans, and not, because black Muslims exist as well. So like I was very happy to see that they included her, and also her being pretty hip to like what Kamala was doing to
I was
try.
gonna say, right? She knew. She was
That
like,
was great.
yeah.
Great to see you, cousin. Sure. Yeah, let's get on out of here so the cousins can talk. Like little stuff like that, because I also find that as my family expands, it's usually the ones coming in who easily pick up on the actual dynamics, while like the
Yeah.
people who are related to each other are just acting blind. So thank you to those of you who thank you to our extended family members. But yeah, I love seeing her.
I once, coming back from Philly, my Lyft driver, it was like a I don't remember when, but it was like I was pretty drunk. And she was like, we were chatting me up, and she had told me how her son just came out. And she said to me, I'm Black Muslim, and our family, I don't know if you're familiar, but we can get pretty crazy. And then she said, what's your background? And I was like, oh, Puerto Rican. She went, oh, you're all crazy too, so you understand. And I was like, fair, yes.
Yay. Us like very brown and black people. Yay.
But it was just funny. She was like, oh, then you get it. And I was like, yeah. My family's pretty crazy. But you know, I really liked that scene of her like giving Kamala that look where it's like, I know what you're doing, but like, it's cool. I'm going to be cool about it. I think my favorite scene, I'm going to go with you, Laura. The Be My Baby scene, just like, I love, like, it was just such a joyous moment. And like, I just loved seeing her happy. I love that song. That's like my favorite oldie song, which is so like basic and corny, but it just is. And yeah, it just like made me very happy. What grade do we give the episode, Swara?
I am going to give it a B+. I think it is overall quite a good episode. I just have some notes here and there, and then next time it'll get up to, just take those notes down and you'll get up to an A next time. So B+ from me.
Laura?
I say A-, just because it's so lively and it just, I love the graphics. I love the entire episode. I was like intrigued. I was watching it the whole time. And I really love the character growth from just like the characters that we get to know them better. The only cringe moment I had was when the reason it's not A+ is because I had a cringe moment when Nakia was trying to convince Kamala's dad and like about suffrage and womanhood. I was just kind of like, oh, this is important, but I kind of like, oh, it's too much. But I liked it in general. But yeah, but that's why A-.
All right, fair. Ashley?
Yeah, I'd have to go with A-. And mine was less with like there was this one scene because of like one particular scene, but more so and I did this with our previous shows too. I don't know. I just can't like ever. I need to see the whole thing before I can be like, yeah, this is A+, A's across the board. It's just like I'm loving the story so far, but at the end of every episode, while there's still episodes to go, that feeling of, oh, I still need more is fine, unless like you don't deliver on what it is that I'm looking for. And so far with all of these stories not feeling wrapped up quite yet, I'm just like, but are you going to wrap up before you get me hyped? And I'm sitting here like everything's going great because I don't want it to be some abrupt thing when we get to the final podcast episode. And I'm like, why they end it like that? So A- until, but it was great. I did enjoy it. It was a great episode.
Yeah, I would say I give it an A. I really it's wild to think that like there hasn't been much conflict, but I'm still like really enjoying it, which is a credit to the writing and the series in general. It feels like I say this a lot about a lot of things, but this is like a perfect storm of like good writing and good acting and like good direction. And like, Laura, like you were saying about all the animation, like it makes it so lively. It's just like everything put together makes for like a really good show. Well, thank you all for joining us. Thank you all for listening. If you like Slayerfest 98, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and anywhere else you get your podcasts. You can support us on Patreon. We're currently going through Harley Quinn Season 2 and What If Season 1. And if you like us, you can find us on social media at SlayerFestX98. If you want to follow me, I am at IanXCarlos. Ashley, where can everyone find you?
Ashley K. Smalls on Twitter and TikTok, which is where I'm like most active. You can follow me on IG, just like don't expect much. Also, you can join my Marvel group, which is Marvel Fans Assemble. It's a Twitter community, so just look us up and you can just go ahead and join. Don't bring any trolling. And and you can visit my blog, Brooklyn Blurred. It's going through a revamp, but like keep an eye on it.
And Swara, where can everyone find you?
Well, I first want to thank you all so much for having me on the podcast. I hope I wasn't too nerdy with like my comics references. But y'all can find me on Twitter at Spider Swars. I am on Instagram at Swarzy_8. I am a co-host of a podcast on the Nerds of Color Network called The Middle Geeks, where my co-host May and I are two geeks of Swana descent who discuss anything and everything related to Swana media and give our takes on it. And I am also a co-host of Into the Spider-Cast, but we are on hiatus for the summer. And in terms of my writing, I write for the Nerds of Color, mainly do interviews for them. And I have also recently gotten a gig, related to the topic of this episode at IO9, doing recap reviews of the Miss Marvel TV show. So please check all of those out.
And I tweet all of our guest stuff, so I'll be tweeting them. I tweeted the first one. It's a very good recap. Also, congratulations on that gig, because that is an awesome place to be reviewing stuff.
Thank you all so much. I really appreciate it.
Laura, where can everyone find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Sirikul. It's L. Everyone always puts I, but it's an L because it's lowercase. So people are like, oh, "I Sirikul." I get it, like an iPhone. I'm like, "Oh no, it's supposed to be an L." So L Sirikul. And you can find me on Instagram for L Sirik. My writing can be found on the Nerds of Color. It can be found on Nerdist, IGN, Empire, and a few other places. So I always tweet where I write for and who I'm covering for, and then NPR too. So that's really cool too.
Oh, this casual mention of like casual NPR
Laura
drop.
is just the badass showing us all up. Like she is just a badass across the board. So wanted to know her.
My voice, I get to use my voice, so it's really cool to do that too.
No, that is awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you for having me. I love this. I love talking to you.
Laura, you always flatter me. I really appreciate that. You always like say how much you like coming on, and I really do appreciate that. Because sometimes I'm like, does anyone like listening to this like stupid gay nerd talk? But so I appreciate it.
It's a great gay nerd talk. Don't sell yourself short.
It's such a great discussion. Yeah, I always listen to you, and I'm just like, it's such a great discussion. I'm so glad to be on this too.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate that. Well, we will be back next week for Ms. Marvel again. June may kill me because I'm doing 2 new episodes every week for the month of June for Ms. Marvel and our Angel Season 1 coverage. And we will see you next time. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.